Hey everybody, looks like we made it to another Wednesday. So glad to see you. Thank you so much for coming by. So we are working on part 4 of this portrait, which I am very excited about. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to learn a lot. So let's go through the normal tradition. I just got to make sure that it's on the big screen here. Let's see. I'm going to actually go here, go back, and then I should see my video live here. Yep, part 4, we are live. We have one watching, I think that is me. So, alright, so let's go ahead and start the text viewer here. Just got to go ahead and authorize that. I can't believe it's October already, guys. Isn't that crazy? It is absolutely amazing that it's October already. And almost there. I have my coffee. We are all set. And I should see who is with us right now, which is absolutely nobody yet. Okay, no problem. When you have one, at least you have somebody. And that somebody is me. So let's go ahead and begin. Now, I do have some leftover dark mixture in here from the painting I was working on earlier today. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start to establish some of the dark hair here. It's a large shape here, and I think if I go ahead and put that in, it'll sort of bring things into balance, which will be very cool. Now what I'm doing right now are dagger strokes, and a dagger stroke is basically a short stroke that tapers at the end, and it's smooth, and I'm doing a series of dagger strokes to paint her hair. As you can see, once I start to paint in the dark of her hair and get that value, things actually fall into place a lot easier. The airbrush I'm using is the Badger Patriot Extreme Arrow. It's amazing for fine detail and also for larger areas such as this. The ink I use is my ink mixtures, or my dilution set, and that is made with Speedball Super Black India Ink. The paper I'm using is, well, today this one is the Color Line series by De La Rowney, which is really fantastic. I'm pretty sure that's the paper I'm using. Yeah, I think that is. It might be the leftover Canford cardstock. I have to look into it. Hey Raul, how you doing, man? Good to see you. How's everything? And I'm just gonna make that I'm gonna make it a little smaller. Let's see if I can make it a little smaller. Okay, so that's I'm gonna fix that in a second. But it's good to see you, Raul. And if you have any advice, any questions, always feel free to ask me, my friend. Always a pleasure. I'm glad to hear you're doing okay, Raul. you know, we do the best we can, right? But thank God we have airbrush and art to get us through the tough times. I really feel that way. So I have my chat open and text size. Here we go. Okay, that's a little bit better. I think that's good. Okay, great. So what I'm doing, Raoul, is I'm just working on the hair. I had some of the dark mixture from another painting I was working on before the live stream. And so I figured while I have it in the airbrush, why don't I use it and get that over. So Raoul, you said you're using your arrow more and more to get the hang of it. Yes. Did you go ahead and change out that trigger, or are you still using the that high roller trigger? It's a nice hard edge right here. So we're going to use our freehand shield. Remember, perpendicular, not parallel. So we have a nice hard edge right there on the top. Then it, oh, the high roller trigger has you intrigued, so I'm trying it out. Okay, very cool. Let me know how you like it. It is very avant-garde, that's for sure, that high roller trigger. It is. It is. There's very little room for error with that high roller trigger. But if you can control that, uh, you know, I'm sure it will. You know, that extra sensitivity will be a help. Hey, Tone, good to see you. How are you, man? Thanks so much for stopping by. How's the artwork going there, Tone? The painting of Mr. Barkley is looking amazing. Raul says that my work is amazing. One day he'll be close to me. Nah, you're doing great, Raul, and you know I appreciate the encouragement. You know, I encourage you guys encourage me, and we're all in the same boat. You know, we're all trying to get better. I really appreciate that. I'm doing okay there, Tone. Doing the best we can, you know. Working hard. Trying to get better, right? That's what we're doing. So as you can see, I'm just really getting more of the darker value in her hair. And then whatever I do on this side, I always do on that side. So, and I think that's going to go a long way. And now I'm leaving this soft because there's a soft edge right here. And then there's a little bit harder here on right here. So let's harden that up a little bit. So it's always important to watch your edges, you know, hard and soft. That's going to be the spice of your work. That's what's going to make your work stand out, look like a 19th century French academic painting. And so that's the look we're after. Little dagger strokes here. So let's go ahead and start on this side. Now on this side we're a little more selective because a lot of this side is actually light. This is more of a dark area. There's a lot of light going on here. But maybe we can go ahead and work on this area right here and then come back with the eraser, you know. Oh man, thanks for sharing it. I appreciate that. Thanks, Tone. So you want to create that balance. If it was too dark on this side, then there would be out of balance, and also would actually hurt the details that you try to do in her face. Now, since we have our freehand shield, there are a few nice curves in here. We can actually just begin to see that. We can go ahead and just begin some of that. Now, if it is a little dark in one area, don't worry about it. It's still early. There's so many ways that you could calm down something that might be too dark. Eraser, pastel, so many different things you can do, but you definitely don't want to worry about that too early in the game. Now here's an interesting, this is an interesting stroke here. I like to call it the fading dot. And so what you do is you just lift up as you go. And then you'll see in this particular, you'll see that I spray and I lift up. So I'm just lifting the head of the airbrush. You see that? So, you know, when that is important is when you're doing something such as hair. You know, you could just lift up like that. You see that, guys? So that's another tool you want to have in your toolbox there. And this way, if you're going from dark to light, it's a very easy way to go from dark to light, and effective nonetheless. You want to make sure that you don't oversaturate the surface. So you want to, if you see it getting too wet, let it go. If it's way too wet, just put some air on it, and that will dry it pretty quickly. I believe this is the Color Line. Now, I'm really in love with the Color Line paper by Canson. I've been working with that probably extensively for the past 2 weeks, and I'm really just loving it. It's thicker than the Canford cardstock, and it just gives you so much more wiggle room in so many ways, you know? So you see we got some really nice darks going, and we're going to move back in, but so we're going to use a freehand shield here because it's pretty hard edge, and remember, always perpendicular. There are times when you want to go parallel, right? There are some times where you will, but pretty much the default way to do it is to go perpendicular and not parallel when using a freehand shield. I find that you don't need that many freehand shields. I use this one mostly 99% of the time. I don't really need, a whole bunch of freehand shields, and a lot of new airbrush artists are spending so much money on freehand shields, making those guys rich, and there's no need for that because you really, really don't need it. You don't need freehand shields. Not too many of them. I use this a lot, as you can see, but I'm not using a lot of different ones. By going perpendicular, you're really controlling that line. And, anything that gives you more control is always best. So you see I'm deepening those darks using the dark mixture here. Once I'm done with the dark mixture in this airbrush, I'm going to go ahead and go back in with the medium mixture and start working on some of those details in the face, in her eyes, and her chin area. Really watch your values. Your values and your edges. We have a nice hard edge here on her chin, so I want to pretty much preserve that when I'm doing the dark. So what we can do is go right there, do our perpendicular, so we preserve that nice hard edge. And now we got to do the bottom part of the chin. So you will find the way to do it, you just got to be patient and you'll find that edge. Remember the 1 second rule. You look for a second and you paint for a second. That's always going to help out. Oh, okay, perpendicular as opposed to parallel. Now, the reason is because if you, let's say you have an edge here and you go parallel, right? And so if you go like that, you have that hard edge. But what if the value is going further? So that means once you do that, then you got to go ahead and fix it. And there's a chance there's going to be an unevenness of value. But let's say you're going to be doing it with my method, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to go perpendicular. So when you go perpendicular, you have much more control, and it's a much more even, so you don't have the dark on the edge there. So it's always going to help you. So by going perpendicular, you'll have a nice shape. So let's say if you're doing, let's say a circle, right? Let's say you're just doing a circle, right? And then what you can do is, if you're going perpendicular, you're getting a nice even tone. You see that? And you don't have that really hard edge right there on the contour. So So by doing it this way, you're having a nice even tone. I hope that helps. Because let's say if you were to do it, parallel, like let's say over here, I'm just going to go parallel. See, I create a dark, and you don't want that. So, that's why I always do that, because I never want to make more work for myself. And it's just a better way of doing it. Everything's like, for me, with the airbrush is, whatever's more efficient. That whole thing of looking for a second and painting for a second. And of course, you want to paint three-dimensional. You want to use distance as well as viscosity, paint viscosity and air pressure, and also, how much you pull back on the trigger. And then finally, you want to use distance to control value. And Tone said that he's getting back into using shields, and that was bugging him all week every time I picked one up. Oh, no problem. Yeah, so, it's all getting used to the shields. You want to use them like second hand, You want it to be second nature, I should say. And, only when you need to. But it does help a lot, I find. Now, it's funny because inside the shadows here, it's not just dark. There's a lot going on. There's detail in the shadows. Reason why there's detail in the shadows, of course, is because there's light bouncing all over the place. So it's not really, it's a relative absence of light. And look at it that way as opposed to being in shadow. That will help. So you can see, like, even in the shadow shape, it's much darker here towards that edge, and then it gets a little darker, and you have this like interesting shape here. So when you're doing that 1 minute or 1 second rule, painting for a second, and looking for a second, painting for a second, in that ratio 1 to 1, you have a less of a tendency to get lost or overwhelmed by detail. That you're sort of sticking with it, Same thing over here. It gets a little darker where the hair meets. It's like that, closet door that's open in a dark room. The room is dark, but inside that closet door, it's even darker. Okay, so here it's a little darker on this edge of the hair. But like I said, I'm going to keep working with the dark mixture until I run out. Let me see how much more I have left. Actually, I have a lot of dark mixture in there. So I might go ahead and, empty it out and put medium mixture in. So while I'm here, let's go ahead and see if we can establish some of this background here. Now the background is very fuzzy. Really no hard edges whatsoever. Relative hard, some are, much more hard than others, but still everything is pretty soft. And you just remember that 1 second rule and you pretty much can just concentrate and draw with the airbrush. That doesn't mean you don't pull out the pencil if you need to here and there. So over here we have a nice dark shape. And just keep that 1 second rule in mind and keep you from getting lost and going your own direction. Hey, what's up, Ray? How's it going? How are you, sir? Good to see ya. Really love the work you're doing there, Ray. Looking really good. And let me go ahead and adjust my air conditioner. October 2nd today, and we had, no exaggeration, 90 something degrees today in New York City, so that was interesting. Ah, thanks, Ray. I appreciate that. No, you're a very talented man, so you definitely grabbed hold of those principles and ran with it. So that was good to see. So, as you can always see, even when I'm working in the background, I'm always moving around, keeping things, keeping things more loose than you would think. It's very important not to, you know, get lost in the tree and make sure we can constantly are seeing the forest. So it's so important. And always remember that 1 second rule. It's really going to save your life. So, this background is basically me just drawing it out as I'm going, with the airbrush and with the pencil. And of course, with something like this, it's not like drawing a portrait. You can get away with a lot more, uh, something like that. So Ray says that he's still having trouble with the neutral gray number 5 spraying glossy on his boards. That is interesting, Ray. I'm not sure, why that occurred. Because here's the neutral gray, of course, that I have, and you can see it's glossy, but it doesn't get in the way. I mean, I still have a pretty good texture. And these paintings were done with the neutral gray as well. So, it's interesting. I'm not sure exactly what's occurring, but we definitely got to look into that. So as you can see, once you start doing the background, definitely, Ray, we definitely will. When you start working on the background, it seems like the figures just sort of belongs in a space, and it really helps. It helps to paint the forms and the edge work, which is really why backgrounds are really important, to make sure that we want to paint them in backgrounds when we can, of course. Okay, you know what? I have a lot of this dark mixture, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this aside because I don't want to waste the dark mixture. And I'm just going to take my paper towel real fast. And I'm just going to when you have the dark mixture, you just want to clean it out because you don't want that mixing with your lighter mixtures. It'll just ruin the ratio, and you just want everything to be very predictable as far as when you're expecting a medium mixture or a light mixture, you want it to be very predictable. So now I have this medium mixture, and we're going to go into her face and try and deepen some of these values inside, right here on her forehead. Oh, well, thank you so much, Ray. I appreciate that so much. You know, I just love it so much, as you do, you know, and, you know, I just don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I just don't continue want to get better and better. So I'm just taking a break from the hair because we want to make sure that we're balanced. We don't want to just work on the hair and continue and then all of a sudden we have hair that's finished and then we got to figure out what we're going to do with the rest of her. So we want to make sure that we always are balanced with our approach. And remember what our focal point is. And our focal point, of course, is her eyes. So we always want to keep her eyes one step ahead of everything else. And then one eye will be even a little bit ahead of the other eye. So you're creating a focus, and that at the end of the painting will actually create a focus for the whole work where you'll actually be directing the eye of the viewer. So I'm bumping the trigger. I have the medium mixture, and so I'm just creating texture. So the space in between where I'm hitting the value is just as important as where I hit it. So by pumping the trigger back and forth, I'm able to create a skin texture while I'm getting the value. I'm increasing my distance because I can lighten the value without lightening the mixture by increasing my distance. So it's pretty amazing airbrush that you have this control that you don't have with any other medium out there. So what we're doing now is we're just getting in some of these shapes here. So getting, much more detail as we go. As you know, if you guys been watching my live streams, you know that the medium mixture, once we come in with that, it's a whole different approach than the light mixture. Setting up course for the dark mixture, then the pastel, and the dark accents. Now, of course, with this, I'm doing detail, so I lowered the pressure on my MAC valve. I dialed it down because if you're going too close and your air pressure is too high, you're definitely going to get massive spidering. Hey Letitia, how's it going? How you doing? Thanks so much for stopping by. Miss you too. So Ray says he started to take his ink mixture and strain it through a nylon into holding the container and literally eliminated clogging at the tip of the brush. Wow, that's fantastic. Oh, that's a great idea. So as you can see, we are just slowly building upon what we already had, and we just want to continue moving around. At this stage, I want to go with the knock eraser, which is a 3 point, what is that? 3.8. It's a lot softer than the other eraser, which I feel is the mono. It's softer than that. And what I can do is I can continue creating texture as I move around. And also, you know, you're also drawing while you're doing this, which is really cool. And then you want to make sure that on the bridge of the nose it's not too wide. But we're going to go ahead and adjust that with the white pastel at the end. But what you want to do is constantly always try and refine things as you go. So I do see that we can do some more detail in here, which would be really good. And you can see that, you know, right here, there are some little nuances here that you want to see, you want to make sure. And those are done by muscles and there's construction of her skull. Now I'm doing little tiny dagger strokes as I'm pumping the trigger. And as you go, you'll see where your drawing needs to be refined, where those shapes need to be refined. And then you see the bridge of the nose, actually that indentation right there connects up with the forehead, but not as dark as right here. So you want to make sure that you get that together. Hey Fernando, how you doing? Hola señor, ¿cómo estás? And then as we're moving along, we can see over here, we can go a little darker. And take your time and do that 1 second rule. If you're looking for a second and painting for a second, you're less apt to make a mistake. Ah, bien, gracias, señor. ¿Cómo está la vida en Monterrey? Now, Fernando is an incredible painter. I don't know if you guys have seen his work, but he's quite amazing. Ah, bien, yes. Monterrey es muy hermoso. By continually moving around, you're basically just slowly setting up for the grand finale, which is the white pastel and the dark accent. So in this stage, it feels like not much is happening, but it really is, because you're doing all the legwork, you're setting everything up. So this is oh, muchísimas gracias, Fernando. Sí, yo quiero ir, definitivamente. Yo tengo muchos amigos de México. Tu país es muy hermoso. And yes, definitely, Letitia. We gotta go to Monterrey. That would be great. And then we're gonna take our kneaded eraser. Yes, I think I need a vacation. Actually, I know I need a vacation. I'm working too hard. Just lately. I know Letitia's working too hard as well. Now, when you're doing this, always make sure that you are just realizing that you're always going to do that 1 second rule. You're not going to do anything unless you look for the same amount of time period. By doing that, you're keeping yourself in check. But also, you're sticking with the program. You know, you're not getting like too excited. You want it to end. You want it to get there to the end of the painting quickly. You have to stick with the program. Stay with the recipe. Just working on her nostril there. And you know, with the India ink and how it's diluted with my ink mixtures, you have such control, and the control is really something that really is going to make your airbrush a lot of fun. And that's one of the things I love about the India ink. It does make the airbrush fun. You're not dealing with mediums. You're not dealing with reducers and all that other stuff. You're just dealing with water, your airbrush, and the India ink. Now sometimes you'll feel like, uh-oh, it's going to spider, so you want to make sure that doesn't happen. So once, say, okay, it's getting a little too wet, then you can pull away. Hola, Michelle, ¿cómo estás? That's so great. We have Monterrey in the house, and now we have Durango City. So cool. So we have a definite Mexican connection today. And we have Letitia from Belize. Oh, y Sultan. Wow, bien. Yes, verdad. And there's just these little details here in her lips, little wrinkles that you put in there in the lips. Now with the medium mixture, it's not the dark mixture, so you still have some wiggle room to make mistakes and get more detail. You wouldn't want to do detail like this with the dark mixture. You want to do the detail first with the light mixture, then go over it with the medium mixture. But the dark mixture is basically going to be for your darkest values, your dark accents, that sort of thing. The 1 second rule is really going to help you. So as you can see, little by little, she's starting to come together, but we want to just make sure that we're working on those very light, subtle, and soft details in her face. So any of you guys watch Shark Tank? I've been watching it I think I watched on Hulu like the first 8 series, and I just love it. Let me know if you guys watch it, and if you do, what do you guys think of it? I never knew, when I became a full-time artist again. I did it years ago. It seemed like it was different back then. Being a full-time artist or entrepreneur in a sense, I'll tell you, it's very hard, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun being your own boss and, setting your own hours. And but you just know that if you just got to keep trying, you just got to keep working hard and, keep plugging. Even when things don't look good, you got to keep going. And it doesn't matter how it looks. It's just if you keep your head down, you keep working, it's going to work out. And I wholeheartedly believe that. Never get too impressed on how things look, whether good or bad. It's always just so important to keep working, to keep pushing, keep trying new things, and continuing with the things that work, and you know, and that's important, reading books. And but I love the Shark Tank because it just, all these different people have, you know, these great ideas and these dreams, and to watch them come true is so nice. Hey Michelle, it's always great to see you. Now, I keep going back to the hair, but it's okay because I'm moving back and forth. Letitia says when she wins the lottery, I won't have to work hard. I'll have to have more time to go have lunch with friends. Ah, that's true. Yeah, you work very hard, Letitia. Don't worry, your hard work's gonna pay off. I know it. I know it very well. One day you're gonna have all kinds of time to have more recreational time. But hard work always pays off. Not right away though. Not always. I'm going to go, next week we're going to go ahead and work on the details, but I'll probably draw it out first during the week, and then we'll go over, because, you know, look at the details of our blouse. It's not going to be, it's simple, but not easy. And so we just got to make sure we simplify it, doing all these negative spaces, and then coming in. I think that would really look good. So I'm looking forward to that. And then during the week I might work on the rock a little bit more, you know, not sure. But definitely want to, now one of the challenges is to keep the values of the rock, you know, not the values, but the edges very soft. And maybe even lighten those values too a little bit. So this way they're not competing with the values in her face, because that's where we want the eyes to go. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take our Knock Eraser 3.8 by Tombow. And we're going to just do some circular motions here. And Michelle wants me to go to Durango. That's funny. I love Durango. Looks really beautiful too. Ooh, okay, so I see here that, you see how, like, when you're in this stage, very cool. We're going to Durango. Now, very cool. So when you're in this stage, you want to make sure that when you see something that might be a little dark or just stands out too much, then that's your cue to de-emphasize it a little bit. Now, that could be the pencil line showing up, I'm not sure. But if we just go ahead and de-emphasize that, it doesn't throw everything out of whack. And so that's good. That makes me feel, you know, okay, that's great. Now, see, the thing is, everything is pretty much within this short value scale. But the thing is, as we go further and further, put more detail in the midtones, and then it'll just set up for once we go into the dark and the light, everything will just fall into place. But this is the part, this is like the meat and potatoes of the painting right now. And then it looks like right here, her lips sort of fall off like that. And I do love her expression. I mean, it's a pretty stoic expression, but I think it speaks volumes. And that's one of the things that really drove me to this particular piece, is that, you know, she's very powerful, and she wants your attention, you know, the model. I don't see enough detail. I don't think that this is a Mayan. It looks like it's probably, I would say, maybe an Aztec sculpture behind it, but it's hard to say. These really regular shapes right here don't make me think that it's from the late classic Maya. That it's probably, you know, Aztec. I'm just going to test out the stream. Okay, let's see if that's showing up. Now it's interesting, from when I actually put that in, it takes, so whenever you type something in, always remember that it is probably, I would say, like a 10-second delay. So always remember, it takes 10 seconds for me to actually see what you guys type. Okay, cool. So we are in business. We have 11 people watching right now. That's pretty cool. So I'm so glad that we have Michelle and Letitia and Fernando and Ray, and let's see who else is here. Tone and Raul. So glad you guys are here and, you know, taking time out of your busy Wednesday to hang out with me. So, you know, I don't take you guys for granted. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. Okay, so assessing the situation and figuring out, okay, so where can we put more detail, that sort of thing. So we're going to stick with the face area, maybe move down over here a little bit, but let's stick with the face area and see where we could just add a little bit more detail. Maybe things are a little too light in certain areas. So just here, maybe I can just, this area right there, I can go ahead and put that in. Right there. Now, the further you're away, you can be real subtle with your values. What you can do is you can take your kneaded eraser. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Letitia. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. I'm humbled. I appreciate that. I think you're pretty great yourself, Letitia. Now, if you see here, there's some detail in this shadow area. And remember that there aren't really shadows, just relative absence of light. So it might look like a shadow area, but it just has less light getting there. Same thing. So, we are definitely trying to refine those shapes, make them a little more sophisticated. Okay, so right here with the nostril, you'll define the nostril not by painting the nostril, but painting the shadow next to the nostril. So a lot of times it's the value next to it that defines the shape. You see that? So it makes it much more realistic. And I'm not really worried about, whether it looks like her yet, because that's going to come as we put in more detail. Because when you put in more detail, you're going to get, details that are created by her facial muscles, which give her the likeness. So looking for the likeness early is really something you don't want to do. It's going to mess you up. So guys, I'm going to be doing a seminar next week, and it's pretty cool. It's going to be a seminar via Skype, and it's going to be how to sell your artwork online via eBay, Instagram, that sort of thing. Going over everything. You're definitely going to make your money back once I teach you these particular aspects of selling via eBay, whether it be Instagram, or setting up, payment structures on your own website. So if you guys are interested, just go ahead and, IM me, and, either on Facebook, if you're a Facebook friend, go ahead and do that, or just email me, paintingcliffs.com. The price is going to be around $29.99, and it's going to be for a 2-hour seminar, and we're going to go over everything about how to accept payments, how to do marketing for what to charge and what people are looking for, that sort of thing, and where would you fall. Not necessarily doing exactly what you do, because you want to come to the customer. So find out, what the customers are looking for, see what artists who are selling it, and I'm going to be showing you guys all of that. So I think that's I wish I had something like that. I had to find out the hard way, but I think that would be pretty cool. So there'll be information on that. But if you want information, just let me know. And the class size on that is going to be limited to around 5 people. So as you can see, we're getting the shape of her a lot better, and we're starting to feel the anatomy of her skull, and also things are sort of coming together as far as the values, the shape of her eyes and stuff like that. So here's something we can do. We can take our medium mixture, and then we can take one of our brushes, and you can go ahead and refine the shape of her eyes, her irises. So I'm doing this with, hey, what's up, Joe and Brad? Good to see you guys. Thanks so much for coming, gentlemen. So, at this stage, it's all about, fixing the drawing, getting detail, really setting up for the grand finale. And that's something that you want to look at, usually day 4. Well, thanks, Joe. Joe says it looking good. I appreciate that, my friend. There we go. And so remember, what we do on this side, we got to make sure we right away do on the other side, especially when it comes to the eyes. You don't want to go too far in one eye and then, not far, and then go over to the other eye. Because what happens is there's going to be a disparity in the quality of both eyes. So work them together. And this way, you're assured that, the eyes are going to be the same shape, and they're going to be in the same amount of detail. Now remember, one eye is always going to have a little more detail than the other, and just be a little bit ahead of the game. I'm picking this eye. I think this eye, for some reason, even though it's in shadow, it seems to me to have a little bit more, a little bit more expression. Hey, Alan, good to see you. How you been? Thanks so much for coming by, Alan. Now, since we're here, let's go ahead and refine her eyelashes. Now, she doesn't have, long eyelashes. That's for sure. It doesn't make her any less beautiful. But, you just got to make sure that you don't make things up. That 1 second rule will keep you from making things up. No problem. That's okay. Definitely. I'm glad you're here now. That's all that matters. I'm glad you're doing well. That's even better. So you can see right now we can go ahead with this brush and we could refine some of the shapes. And that's the beauty of working with the India ink. You can use the same India ink, whatever mixture you're working, straight from your airbrush. And you can get a variety of edges, not just with the airbrush. You can use pen and ink technique, you can use brush. It's really cool. It opens up a whole world to you. There we go. Now, since we're doing that, and I'm pretty happy with it, let's see if we could go ahead and just get off some of the excess here and see if we can do a little detail here in her eye here. Now that we went there, we want to move around, and I see that both eyes are pretty much congruent, so we can now go ahead and move down to her nose and see if there's anything we can do with the brush for those nostrils. Hey, Bradley sold a portrait. Congratulations. Now, is it a portrait commission or is it just something that you did on your own? Congratulations. Selling your art. That's the thing. That's what it all comes down to. So you can buy more supplies to make more art. Hey, we do it because we love it. That is so cool. Yes, congratulations there, Bradley. That's so great. Jersey said, Tim, it's hard to tell from my view, but did you pick the dry ink of the tip when you use urethanes, or do you have the tip dry? So let me see. So I want to make sure I understand this, Joe. Uh, so it's hard to tell from your view, but do you pick the dry tip, uh, like you pick the dry ink like you do with the whoop? Let me see. Yeah, what I do when I have tip dry, and hopefully this is exactly what you mean. So when I have tip dry, I just basically use my fingernails to pull that, and that pretty much helps out. You know, that pretty much usually that takes care of it. I just do it like that. Some people are afraid to bend the needle, but I'm pretty delicate with the way I do that, so I don't have any problems with it. So I hope that that helps. Oh, great, great, yeah. I'll tell you with the ink, I don't even use Windex to clean this. I basically just use water and, and a paper towel. And then if it gets really bad, I'll go ahead and I'll use, I'll put some of the pieces, like the tip, I'll put that in the nail polish remover, and that takes care of it. That's only once a month. You do, but it's a fraction. Hey, Willie, how you been? How's everything? So we missed you. You been okay, my friend? Yeah, it's a fraction of the time, Joe, which is really great. That's one of the reasons that I really auto connect has gotten me in so much trouble in my life. I'll tell you. It's more like auto get you in trouble if you're. Oh my God, it's so bad. So Bradley, I haven't seen you in a while. I mean, Willie, I haven't seen you in a while. Now, see this edge here? It's a little hard edged. So what I'm going to do is just some circular motions. Really paying attention. Remember the 1 second rule. Really see what's going on with that edge. You know, is it something that's goes in and out like a peninsula? And it really is. So that's what I really look for. Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. I appreciate that, Willie. I'm glad you're doing well. Yes, life does get very busy, of course. But, very glad to see you. So Bradley was talking about, let me see, I gotta go back. Oh, so Bradley said it was a picture of a lady who runs the Artist Guild that he's part of. Picture of her when she was young. Wow, and it was a commission, or was it something that you did on your own, and then she loved it and bought it, or was it a commission? But notice if I see something in the hair, I'll go ahead and work on that, keeping things together. Now, looking over here, I can see there's a little more negative space in this eye there. So I am definitely going to address that right away, not waiting. There we go. So you just liked the picture and she liked it and decided that's fantastic. See, that's the best. When you do it and they like it so much, they're just, you did it for your own and your own reasons and they like it. That's like a really good form of flattery. One of the best when it comes to your art. Oh, well, definitely. I know you can, Willie. So, whenever you have any questions about that, you let us know. It's funny, selling the work is always bittersweet, right? You're happy you sold it, but you're kind of sad you got to let your baby go. There are times when I was reunited, whether, you know, uh, someone shows me after many years of a painting, or I see a painting in an exhibition that I did and I sold years ago. It's like seeing an old friend. Once you sell it, you're still a part of you and it's out there. So it's a good feeling and kind of a weird feeling at the same time. So as you can see, I'm looking for the variations of values in the shadows. But you're not going to do that in the beginning. You're going to do that as you go, right? You're not going to look for variations in the shadows from the light mixture. This is something you do during the media mixture. Bradley says he doesn't sell a lot, but it's nice to think of my work hanging in someone's house. That is true. It's even better when we hopefully get it into a museum, right? That's what we're hoping for. These little light shapes right here go a long way with getting the character of your model. Remember, I'm a good distance away. Hey Lance, how's it going? Good to see ya. Thank you so much for coming by. How you been, man? And Jersey Joe says you've been watching some of my old pastel videos. Yes, I do. I do pastel. I have a pastel painting going. I just don't do them as publicly anymore because working on this India ink technique. So basically, I still do it. It's a technique that I devised over the years, and I was pretty well known as a pastel painter. But I find that it's real difficult to serve two masters. So I still practice the pastels, but I'm concentrating on the airbrush. But I love it. It's always going to be a love of mine, Joe, definitely. But the pastels always help my airbrush, and vice versa. And oh, okay. Now, if the autofocus is messing up, it's probably having to do with your wireless connection, right? That happens. Sometimes, especially this time of day, it gets it gets lower resolution and then higher resolution. Jersey Joe, thank you. I appreciate that. Jersey Joe says that my pastel paintings are beautiful. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. You know, I actually studied pastel painting with Harvey Dinnerstein, who studied with one of the Sawyer brothers, you know, Moses and Raphael Sawyer, very famous artists. And I was very blessed to learn pastels from him. And so, you know, my whole way of working in India Ink is very conducive to what I do with pastel. So it's sort of everything's connected. Oh, okay. So it's not wireless. So that's interesting. Yeah. So I'm just gonna double check, right? Yeah, the focus is pretty good. So it must be a YouTube thing. So sorry about that, Ray. Is it better now? Okay, now she has this cute little birthmark here. Let's go ahead and put that in. Let's see. Just below her nostrils, right there. Put that in again, a little darker. There we go. So I think that's very good. Ray says no Christians and atheists, I guess. There we go. So you see, little by little, you know, you make these little adjustments as you go, and then eventually you really get a sense of, you know, her character in this portrait. And let's just spray some air on that. There we go. I'm going to go back to the airbrush. But now is the time to really start doing some of those real, you know, those decision making right now. So with the 1 second rule, you definitely can see where, you know, there are decisions that were made that really were not founded in observation. So you see, once we go ahead and get rid of that, it's amazing how we put in information that isn't there, right? And how did that happen? You know, I ask myself all the time, how did that happen? How did I get that information? You know, what made me see that? It's not what I see, it's what I think I see. So I think we're going to finish this up in part 5, but I'm not going to rush it. We might have our first part 6. I don't know if we had a part 6 in the last year, but if it needs a part 6, there'll be a part 6. So great, now we can see that since we have the beauty mark there, we can adjust this side plane. And let's see. Jersey Cell says you're not painting exact duplicate of the original, correct? The original is mostly there for suggestions. Basically, it's sort of like an impression. I'm like an academic painter, but I definitely am not going to be so literal. And it just comes together. So right now, it might look like the likeness might not be there, but it will get there because of the fact is that we're just gradually working the whole painting. But yeah, I'm definitely not a photorealist, Joe, that's for sure. Willie says, I don't think so. And Bradley says he tells his students all the time to draw what they see, not what they think they know. Definitely, that's a very good point, Bradley, you want to arrive at a likeness, so when you're working in pastel, you want to arrive, at, the correct color. So that's something that is always important. So it's better to arrive at the correct color than try to go ahead and mix the correct color. Same thing, it's best to arrive at the likeness as opposed to working on the likeness. And we all see those artists, right? Who they'll go ahead and paint this like totally finished and then do it totally finished here and totally finished there. Well, that's what billboard artists used to do. So I don't think that really gets the breath. Now, are academic painters correct? Yes. Are impressionist artists correct? Yes, they're both correct and they're both wrong at the same time. And I think a combination of the two is really good because the work has more life to it. Jersey Joe says he doesn't care for photorealism. He likes to see different texture the artist will apply. Definitely. I agree 100%, Joe. That's a good point. And, as we are working, we are just, continuing to try and find those nuances that we may have missed. And you really can't see the muscles or anything until you see everything else, until you put the skeletal structure, you can't really see the muscles just yet. And that's why you want to arrive. That's why I want to arrive at the likeness. When I'm doing my nudes, I want to see those muscles, define those muscles after I do the larger shapes. So it's almost impossible to have a likeness at that point, in the early going. I think your photorealists there, Joe, they're really just picking at it and just they're sucking the life out of it, I think. But that's just my own opinion. No, I wouldn't say that. I think that's unfair. Their approach is different. Like I said, their approach is good. There's a lot of photorealists that are fantastic, and I really love their work. But I think it's just different, and also temperament. But I was also taught to work the whole painting, So that's let's see. So Alan says I find I don't like to show people the references I use because sometimes they start comparing and trying to say what you got right or wrong. Yeah, that's always a danger, right, Alan? So, yes, I definitely understand that. One of the cool things, when you get it right, it's really cool, right? When you nail it on the head. But yes, a lot of times people will compare. But, that's the danger we have as, public artists, right? When we show our work out there, I always say that we can defend our paintings at the easel or on the table, but once it's out there, there's no defense. So, do the best job you can while you have all the control in the world. But once it's out there, it's out there. Joe says, I'm correct, Tim. His point is, if going to look like a photo, then someone might as well purchase the photo. That's a very good argument, and a lot of people feel that way. I mean, yeah, my training is, definitely not photorealistic painters. Uh, you know, they're more steeped into the New York City realism that's been going on, right from like Edward Hopper to Moses Sawyer to, Harvey Dinnerstein, Ron Scher, those guys, Erwin Greenberg. So that was basically, but, in my own travels, Joe, I actually became much more tight in my realism because I was affected by the photorealists. I didn't become a photorealist, but their work did affect me to the point where it got a little tighter. So Bradley says that he's hard enough on himself. Believe me too. And he said he doesn't need someone busting his chops. Yeah, it's funny, but we're all hard on ourselves, and the most important thing, I think, even more important than how the work comes out, is just that we're working. The more hours we put in, the more we're going to get out of it, and the more we're going to give the world. So it's all up to us, how much we are going to, work on it. And, Joe, it's all about finding your voice, right? And, I feel I've been painting forever, and I feel I'm just starting to find my voice. Visually, technical-wise. I mean, I always had a voice with subject matter, but as far as, like, technique, I think I'm finding my voice now. And that's great, it feels good. It feels like I'm starting now to do things in my own direction. But the whole thing is, is always push your technique, But definitely, if, go with what you feel, because there are those people who just love photorealism, and God bless them. They have a lot of patience. I have ADD, so there's no way that I could do that. You see how I move around? That's sort of how my mind works. I move around, so that keeps me from being photorealistic. But also, I definitely recommend moving around because then the work comes out together. Alan says it's true even for music. If someone is covering a song and they do it exactly the same as the original, then I might as well just listen to the original. Very true. And Jersey says, it's so true. We all know the mistakes we made in our paintings. That reminds me of the 19th century English painter, Dante Gabriel Rossetti. And I'm paraphrasing, but I think this is the exact quote, is that we see the genius in the work of other artists, but in our own, just the flaws. So, that's a very true statement, Joe. So Willie, I haven't had to change the authorization on the chat, so that's interesting. This might be a first. And I did start this at exactly 9:30. So maybe XSplit is fixing it, right? I hope so. And we're always looking to, get that texture, not just the value. Because if you just get the value and not the texture, then you're going to need like stencils and stuff to help you out. But while you're getting the value, you're getting the texture as well. The work's going to be a little more dynamic, a lot more dynamic. And Alan said, Alan says he told a friend recently who asked to see the reference that Da Vinci reveals his reference. I will reveal mine. When Da Vinci reveals his, you'll reveal his. That's true. That's right. We'll be like reporters. We don't always have to share our sources, right? That's very true. So, you can see that I'm always looking to adjust. But don't worry about the likeness when you're adjusting. Only worry about, the whole things of, painting, you know, drawing, value, edge, texture. Only worry about those elements. Don't worry about looking like them. That will happen when it happens. It's like a trap, Yeah, you might be good luck today there, Willie. So, that's good. Is it me or do you go through these mono erasers really fast, the refills? I'd say I go maybe 2 weeks I have to refill them. So I use it a lot. Do you guys use the mono a lot? Now's a good time as any to go ahead and start putting in some of the lights in her hair. Yeah, so Bradley, you go through it a lot too. So we haven't even gone in with the darks, the white pastel, or we haven't gone with the darks, the white pastel, or the dark accents. So it's really gonna pop. It's like, definitely don't worry about the. Really, don't ever worry about the. Thanks, Bradley. Don't worry about the. How should I say? The likeness at this stage. Or the favorite. Oh, the favorite is the mono eraser. Yes, mine too. That's for sure. See, I'm looking for the big shapes, and then I'm going to come in. Willie says, no, he uses the eraser with the brush on it. That's, what's it called? That's the Perfection. That is the Perfection 7058B by Faber-Castell. Yes. So that really helps you out, and that's cool. So have you guys tried the Color Line paper by Canson? I'm really loving it because it's thicker. Being thicker, this is probably not it. Let me see if I have an example of the Color Line. So this is an example of the Color Line that I've been working on. So it's just nice and thick, and it's really fantastic. And I like it even better than the Canson. So if you get a chance, go ahead and order that, the Color Line by Canson. I think it's just called regular gray. Let me see if I can get the exact designation. I have it in one of my notebooks. Oy. There's no link because you can't. Tim, who was the artist who you quoted before? Oh, Dante Gabriel Rossetti. One of my favorite artists of all time. Let me go ahead and write that down real quick for you. Here we go. Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Amazing painter. Mid-19th century he was very active up until the very beginning of the 20th century. Just amazing. Just the way he painted women was just so fantastic. Really love it. So definitely check out his work, guys. You'll really, really love it. Thanks, Tone. I appreciate that. Hey, Alan. Good to see you, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope to see you next week. So we're okay, we're working on the hair. Yes, so we're working on some of the larger light areas of the hair. So remember, we're looking at the forest now, not the trees. The trees come later. So Color Line has, by Canson, has their color line. Oh, now I was going to get my CDADD coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly look for the paper that I use. It's really fantastic. It really blows away what was going on with the, with the Canford cardstock. So it definitely did help us. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to very quickly see if I can find that designation here. See, I don't know if you guys use your notebook. Do you switch all around in your notebook? I do. I'm all over the place. I don't just, use, pages numerically. I go all over. Just goes to show you how my mind works. Let's see. I definitely want to get that for you. Okay, so it's 184 pound acid free, and it's gray. So definitely you want to get that. Bradley says, Tim, is that a different eraser using now? Yes, this is the, you got to get this eraser. It's really fantastic. It is the Knock 3.8, and I think Ray has it, and he really loves it. It has a very special quality to it. It's hard to really, it sort of like picks up more than usual. And so, you definitely want to give this a try. I picked it up for a song. I mean, I think it was like $3 or something like that on Amazon. But it's really great. You can see how it just pulls up a larger area. It's really not for detail, but it's good for larger areas such as what we're doing now. But you see, and also get these gloves if you don't have them already. Definitely highly recommend the gloves. Game changer. So wow, we're at 11:19 already. So this was a pretty good live stream, I think. I think we're getting really far, a lot further than I thought I would get today. So notice I'm doing the large shapes here. I'm not getting too involved in anything too specific. And as I'm going, you'll say, okay, this is definitely, we can make some changes in the drawing. See that? And then we can go ahead and continue working on some of these larger areas. So I love that it's 184 pounds, which makes it a lot thicker. And it just seems to, oh, Willie says it looks amazing. I really appreciate that, Willie. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me, guys. So, basically we are just refining as we're going. We're moving around, not staying in one area. Now, there might be times when you have to adjust something. Now, right here, I find, remember, there are going to be times when you're going to have to adjust. So if I go straight up here, this goes right in the middle of the iris there. You see that? But when I look at the reference photo, that's why we always got to really, it's a little bit over to the left. So let's go ahead and see how we're going to do this. Hopefully it'll come out. You'll just erase. Ah, we lucked out, guys. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to dust over that. And then we're going to find that again. So now if I'm looking, it's over to the left. And so it was right, but it was just a little bit over to the left, like right there. Go. And then we can just dust around it, erase around it, and then dust it. So, you know, I think it needed that little adjustment there. But you always want to have that critical, you know, so that critical analysis of your work. Believe it or not, that made a little bit of a difference. But I'm not worrying about likeness, I'm just worrying about, you know, measurements and stuff. And I sort of like the softness that is coming together with her, and you know, when we come in with the dark mixture, and it's really going to have a nice complement to the softness that we are achieving right now. See how this sort of comes up a little angular, like right here? We want to make sure that we sort of get that. Remember, everything that we're doing is leading to the next stage, and that's what you want to keep going. So Lance says, what did you tap the paper with? Oh, the kneaded eraser? Yes, this is my favorite kneaded eraser in the world, and I believe Faber-Castell is the company, is the brand. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. So I'm gonna always use this one from now on. So it's the company is Faber-Castell. Comes in this little plastic case, and to me it works the best and stays clean the longest. And Bradley says, Tim, after the live stream, will message me the name of that eraser again. Definitely. So it is the Mono-Knock. Let me type that in for you right now to help you out. I'll do that for you. Let's see. We'll just go here, and I'll type that in. The Mono Knock 3.8 by Tombow. Now it's great. So I typed that in for you, and oh, that's the great thing, Lance, about this whole technique. Now, those who know me, have, you know, been around a while, know that, you know, I used to do this technique with pencil on a tinted paper and the white pastel, and then I was working in airbrush, and I just decided to go ahead and see what happens if I was to do this technique with India Ink and erase perfectly. So it's almost like drawing. This is like the marriage of drawing and painting, Lance. You really like it. So definitely, it definitely erases, and erases very well. Jersey Joe says, great live stream, Tim. Thank you for the interaction and answering. My pleasure. It's always my pleasure, Joe. And always great to see you. And, you know, you guys are great. And I look forward to always hanging with you guys. So I appreciate that. So it looks like we're almost done with part 4. But I think we we did some really good work today, and some great questions, and I really appreciate that. Hey Willie, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Uh, I'm glad you're back, and I'm glad you're okay. So those are all great things. So good to see you. So next week's going to be interesting. We're going to start introducing the dark mixture, and if we have time, we're going to go ahead and start introducing the white pastel. Off camera during the week, I'm going to work on some of the drawing aspects of this blouse, very intricate, and then I'm going to work on some of the background here and just concentrate on the portraiture for the live streams. Lance says, glad you finally caught a live stream. I'm glad too, man. And so cool. And remember, I always leave the live streams up on YouTube for a while. And so, that's pretty cool. So you definitely could look at it if you want to go back to a certain area or you haven't caught the whole thing. So that's always very good. So I want to give you guys the full 2 hours. I'm just going to airbrush a little bit here, get some of this, maybe work on some of this hard edge right here. It's beautiful hard edge. Remember, always perpendicular and not parallel. And of course, here we'll clean up a little bit. So as we're looking, we can say, okay, so right here, we're always correcting the drawing, guys. We're always worrying about the drawing as we go, and that makes a big difference. Remember, we're not looking for likeness. That's going to happen on its own. We're just going to be looking for, looking for the major shapes and those principles of, drawing value, edges, and texture. So I'm glad I'm able to give you guys the full 2 hours, and thank you everybody for joining me today. And those of you who are watching this recording, already recorded later today or tomorrow, thank you so much. So go ahead, hit that like button for me. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell icon so you'll be notified. So I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you so much for hanging with me, guys. Good night, Joe. Good night, Bradley, everybody. Take care of yourselves.